The RNLI works with vulnerable people on a daily basis, whether it's on the beach, out on a rescue, during an educational visit, at a fundraising event, over the phone, or even online. It's important that everyone who is part of the RNLI understands what safeguarding is and why it's so vital. Every one of us has a responsibility to safeguard the welfare of the young people and vulnerable adults we may meet, not only when we're at work or volunteering for the RNLI, but more broadly within the communities we live. If you suspect that someone is committing abuse, it may be something that you don't want to consider. The RNLI calls upon you to show courage and recognise that the welfare of those at risk is paramount. We are committed to protecting vulnerable people from abuse, harm or neglect through our safeguarding practices. By each of us living out the RNLI values, we ensure that everyone involved with the organisation can uphold our safeguarding responsibilities, because we know it's the right thing to do. Welcome to the RNLI's Safeguarding e-learning. This e-learning will help you to know your role and responsibilities and feel empowered to hold yourself and others to account if a safeguarding risk or matter arises. Have the confidence to recognise, respond and report on disclosures or concerns around safeguarding in your RNLI role. Living a life that is free from harm and abuse is a fundamental human right of every person and essential requirements for health and well-being. We need to be aware that there are additional responsibilities to safeguard both children and adults who, through their circumstances, may be more vulnerable to harm or abuse. The term child or children includes any child or young person up to the age of 18. A person vulnerable to abuse can be anyone, and there is no one-size-fits-all. This module will make reference to policies and procedures. Please note that in these instances, this will refer you directly to the RNLI's specific policies and procedures on the volunteer zone or campus. Everyone has a responsibility to keep children and adults at risk safe. Safeguarding is the action taken to promote their welfare and protect them from harm. All organisations that come into contact with children and adults at risk must have specific safeguarding policies and procedures in place. This includes voluntary and community organisations, faith groups, private sector providers, schools, hospitals and sports clubs. It is vital that anyone who is in regular contact with children and adults at risk is aware of their safeguarding responsibilities, to ensure everyone, regardless of their age, gender, religion or ethnicity, can be protected from harm. Child protection versus safeguarding. Child protection is the activity of protecting children who are suffering or may be likely to suffer from significant harm as a result of abuse or neglect. Safeguarding is a preventative approach. It involves promoting the welfare of children by protecting them from harm and recognising the risks to their safety and security. Safeguarding adults at risk. Adult safeguarding is working with adults with care and support needs to keep them safe from abuse or neglect. It is an important part of what we and many public services do. All organisations have a duty to ensure that the welfare of all adults is ensured. As part of this, they need to understand when to implement their safeguarding adults reporting procedures. Safeguarding duties apply to an adult who has need for care and support, including those we rescue, is experiencing or is at risk of abuse or neglect, as a result of those care and support needs, is unable to protect themselves from either the risk of or the experience of abuse or neglect. Recognise. Abuse is any action by another person, be that family member, care worker, or stranger that causes significant harm to a vulnerable person. The abuse can be physical, sexual, or emotional, but it can just as often be a lack of love, care, and attention. It is known that neglect can be just as damaging as physical abuse. An abused person will often experience more than one type of abuse, as well as other difficulties in their lives. Rather than occurring as a one-off event, abuse often happens over a long period of time and is increasingly happening online. We are going to explore the different types of abuse. For each type, you will learn about the signs, symptoms, and behaviours, so you know what to look out for. It's important to say that you may not see these signs or behaviours firsthand or in an RNLI environment. Instead, someone could confide in you or mention things in a conversation. Knowing these signs across all settings will help you to determine if you should raise any concerns. Physical abuse. Physical abuse means deliberately hurting someone, causing injuries such as bruises, broken bones, burns, or cuts. It isn't accidental. Those who are physically abused suffer violence such as being hit or kicked. Physical harm may also be caused when a parent or carer fabricates the symptoms of or deliberately induces illness in a child. Signs and symptoms of physical abuse. Bumps and bruises don't necessarily mean someone is being physically abused. For example, all children have accidents, trips and falls. There isn't one sign or symptom to look out for that indicates someone is being physically abused. But if an individual often has injuries, there seems to be a pattern, or the explanation doesn't match the injury, then this should be investigated. Physical symptoms. Bruises, burns or scalds, bite marks, fractures or broken bones. Behaviours you may notice. As well as these physical signs of abuse, it is important to note that there could also be behavioural changes. Watch out for these types of behaviour. Withdrawn, frightened, flinches, reluctant to undress, passive, aggressive, easily upset, clingy, unwilling to go home, depressed, sleeping problems, wets the bed, soils clothes, misses school, unusual eating habits, nightmares, drug or alcohol use, self-harm, suicidal thoughts. Emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is the persistent emotional maltreatment or neglect of an individual. It's sometimes called psychological abuse and can seriously damage a child's emotional health and development. Emotional abuse can involve deliberately trying to scare or humiliate someone, or isolating or ignoring them. It can include denying someone opportunities to express their views, deliberately silencing them, or making fun of what they say or how they communicate. It may involve seeing or hearing the ill treatment of another. It may also involve serious bullying, including cyberbullying, causing the individual to feel frightened or in danger. Emotional abuse is the second most common reason children need protection from abuse. Signs and symptoms of emotional abuse. There often aren't any obvious physical symptoms of emotional abuse or neglect, but you may spot signs in an individual's actions or emotions. Changes in emotions are a normal part of growing up, so it can be difficult to tell if a child is being emotionally abused. Some level of emotional abuse is involved in all types of maltreatment of a child, though it can occur alone. Emotional abuse includes, but is not limited to, humiliation or criticism, threatening, shouting and name-calling, using jokes and sarcasm to hurt a child, manipulating a child. Behaviours you may notice. The child accepts punishment willingly, overreacts to mistakes, continually self-deprecates, has an irrational fear of new situations, is sad, depressed, or withdrawn, displays excessive behaviour such as head rocking or pulling out hair. Neglect. Neglect is the persistent failure to meet someone's basic physical and/or psychological needs, likely to result in the serious impairment of their health or development. It's the number one form of child abuse. Neglect can mean an individual is left hungry or without adequate clothing. They may be excluded from the home or abandoned with no shelter. They may be put in danger or not protected from physical or emotional harm. Or they might not receive the love, care and attention that they need. It can also include neglect of or unresponsiveness to that person's basic emotional needs. Signs and symptoms of abuse. Neglect can have serious and long-lasting effects, but it can be difficult to identify, making it hard to take early action. Having one of the signs or symptoms listed here doesn't necessarily mean that someone is being neglected, but multiple or persistent signs could indicate there's a serious problem. Neglect signs. Poor levels of concentration, poor appearance and hygiene, complains of hunger, does not keep doctor's or hospital appointments, frequently absent from school or often late, reluctant to go home from school, delayed speech development. Behaviours you may notice: tired, anxious, clingy, obsessive behaviour, missing school, soils clothes, wets the bed, depressed. Sexual abuse. A person is sexually abused when they are forced or enticed to take part in sexual activities. It's not necessarily violent, and the individual may not even understand that it's wrong. The activities may involve physical contact or non-contact activities, such as involving children in looking at or in the production of sexual images. Signs and symptoms of abuse. Sexual abuse is preventable. Together we can stop abuse before it happens. Remember that sexual abuse is not solely perpetrated by adult males. Women can also commit acts of sexual abuse, as can children or young people. Behaviours you may notice: acting out or simulating sexual behaviours, persistent bedwetting, nightmares or sleep problems, anorexia, bulimia, self-harm or comfort eating, fear of a specific person, substance abuse, unexplained gifts or money, use of sexual language, secrecy around their internet use and webcams. Grooming. Grooming takes place when someone builds an emotional connection with a child or young person to gain their trust for the purposes of sexual abuse or exploitation. Children and young people can be groomed online or in the real world by a stranger or by someone they know, for example a family member, friend or professional. Groomers may be male or female. They could be any age. Many children and young people don't understand that they have been groomed, or even that what has happened is abuse. Children may be very secretive, including about what they're doing online, have older boyfriends or girlfriends, go to unusual places to meet friends, have new things such as clothes or mobile phones that they can't or won't explain, have access to drugs and alcohol. Bullying and cyberbullying. Bullying is behaviour that hurts someone else, such as name-calling, hitting, pushing, spreading rumours, threatening or undermining someone. It can happen anywhere, at school, at home or online. It's usually repeated over a long period of time and can hurt someone both physically and emotionally. Bullying that happens online using social networks, games or mobile phones is often called cyberbullying. an individual can feel like there's no escape because it can happen wherever they are at any time of day or night. You should look out for belongings getting lost or damaged, physical injuries such as unexplained bruises, being afraid to go to school, being mysteriously ill each morning or skipping school, not doing as well at school, asking for or stealing money to give to a bully, being nervous, losing confidence or becoming distressed and withdrawn, problems with eating or sleeping, bullying others. Domestic abuse. Domestic abuse is any type of controlling, bullying, threatening or violent behaviour between people in a relationship. Domestic abuse can seriously harm children and young people. Witnessing domestic abuse is child abuse, and teenagers can suffer domestic abuse in their relationships. Children who witness domestic abuse may become aggressive, display antisocial behaviour, suffer from depression or anxiety, not do so well at school due to difficulties at home or the disruption of moving to and from refuges. Online abuse. Online abuse is any type of abuse that happens on the internet, whether through social networks, playing online games, or using mobile phones. Children can experience cyberbullying, grooming, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, and emotional abuse. Children can feel like there is no escape from online abuse. Abusers can contact them at any time of the day or night. The abuse can occur in safe places like their bedrooms, where images and videos can be stored and shared with other people. A child may be experiencing abuse online if they spend lots of time online, or spend much more or much less time than usual texting, gaming, or using social media, are withdrawn, upset, or outraged after using the internet or texting, are secretive about who they're talking to and what they're doing online or on their mobile phone, have lots of new phone numbers, texts or email addresses on their mobile phone, laptop, or tablet. Other types of abuse that adults or sometimes children can experience include self-neglect. This could cover a wide range of behaviour, broadly defined as neglecting to care for one's personal hygiene or surroundings. Modern slavery. This can encompass human trafficking, forced labour, and domestic servitude. Organisational abuse. Organisational abuse can range from one-off incidents to ongoing ill treatment. It can be through neglect or poor professional practice as a result of the structure, policies and practices within a specific organisation. Financial or material. This includes theft, fraud, internet scamming and coercion in relation to an adult's financial affairs or arrangements, including in connection with wills, property, inheritance or financial transactions. It can also include the misuse or misappropriation of property. Respond. It's vital that those being abused are able to speak out and whomever they tell takes them seriously and acts on what they have been told. Here are some key points on how to respond if someone discloses something concerning to you or if you suspect something untoward. Show you care. Help them to open up. Give your full attention to the child or adult and keep your body language open and encouraging. Be compassionate. Be understanding and reassure them their feelings are important. Phrases such as, "You have shown such great courage today," help. Take your time, slow down. Respect pauses and don't interrupt the child or adult. Let them go at their own pace. Recognise and respond to their body language, and remember that it may take several conversations for them to share what's happening to them. Show you understand. Reflect back. Make it clear you're interested in what the child or adult is telling you. Reflect back what they've said to check your understanding, and use their language to show it's their experience. Reporting. Reporting suspicions, disclosures, or allegations can be very difficult. However, the worst thing you can do is nothing. We call on you to be trustworthy, selfless, and have the courage and conviction to report your concerns, to do what is right for those who may be at risk of harm. At the RNLI, we are clear that protecting the people we come into contact with should be an everyday approach for each RNLI person. If you ever have any concerns, report your concerns to your manager immediately. Make a record of your concerns that is factual, sign, and date it. If you feel they are in immediate danger, dial 999 and call the police. Always follow the RNLI's safeguarding policies and procedures. You can find them on Compass or the Volunteer Zone. Summary. You play a vital role in safeguarding, even if you don't have direct contact with those suffering or at risk from abuse. If you suspect that someone is committing abuse, it may be something that you don't want to consider, especially if they're a colleague or a friend. Your initial reactions may be to dismiss the issue or try to prove it's not true. It is important to recognise that those suffering abuse value being believed. As the adult they have chosen to tell, it's vital that you act on what you've been told. This also means being vigilant and reporting any potentially unsafe practices you may see to your manager. By each of us living out the RNLI values, we ensure that everyone involved with the organisation can deliver and uphold our safeguarding responsibilities, because we know it's the right thing to do. If you have been affected personally by anything you've seen in this film, you can get support through Support 24/7.